Now we're going to take a number and talk about rounding a number. And you've probably dealt with that. Sometimes they say rounding off or something like that. Instead of saying the whole number, we're rounding off. We're going to go with what we call straight rounding rules here. There are other ways to do rounding in science classes and other fields. They may have other ways of doing it. But generally, for mathematical things, we follow what are called straight rounding rules. And that says if you have a number like 592 and you wanted to round to the nearest tens, now they have to tell you how they want it rounded off, to what place value. So say you wanted it to the nearest 10. This is already a bad example, but that's okay. You look at the digit behind to the right of the place you're rounding to. If it's 5 or more, then it rounds up. This one, 2 is not 5 or more. And so if we were rounding to the nearest tens, it would be 590. Now let's say we had that number, 592, and we wanted to round to the nearest hundreds. Then we look behind the 9, so that's 5 or more, so it's going to round up to 600. 600. Okay, now let's say you have a number like 1,499. And you wanted to round to the nearest, let's say you wanted to round to the nearest 10. Well, you'd look behind, look to the right, it's going to round up. But when we try to round 9 up, that goes to 10, right? So it's going to round up again. So you got to go, you have to kick it over to the next place value. So it would wind up being 1,500. That's how it would be rounded to the nearest 10. Now you might say, well, what if I wanted to round to the nearest 100? Well, it'd be the same thing, right? In this case, if you were rounding to the nearest 100, so you're rounding there, you'd still get 1,500. Okay, now what if I wanted to round, kind of out of room here, what if I wanted to round that number to the nearest 1,000? Okay, if I wanted to round to the nearest 1,000, I look to the right, one digit, it's a 4. So it's not going to round up. So to the nearest 1,000, it would be 1,000. So sometimes that's confusing because you think, well, but if I took those 9s and rounded it to 5 and then I could round, it doesn't work that way. You just go one digit to the right, and if that digit's 5 or more, then it rounds up. Okay, so let's see what we have here on example 4. Round to the nearest 100. So locate the place value. So that's the 8. So the one behind it is a 5. So it's 5 or more. So it's going to round up. So 17,900. I have to fill those zeros in for the place values. And that's what it would be rounded to the nearest 100. Now they give us a number and they ask us several questions with this one number. So example 5, here's the number we have. First, we're going to round to the nearest 100. So that's the 9. The 8's going to make it round up, but because it's a 9, it's going to have to kick over to the next one. So it's going to be 207,000. And that's what it would be rounded to the nearest 100. Now, what if I wanted to round to the nearest 1,000? So I'm looking now at the 6. I'm looking behind. Looks like that's also going to be 207,000. We kind of had an example like that before. And then finally, they want us to round to the nearest 10,000. So 10,000 is right where that 0 is there. So I look behind at the 6. It's going to round up. So I'm going to have 210,000. And that would be the number. So that's how those would round. I was going to say something else about that one. It escapes me. They all, in this case, for this example, all of 3 of them, they rounded up. It doesn't always happen. It just happened this time. So, and I think that's it for this video.